Hey VC, this is Mark with Vinyl Crush. Went on a shopping spree up in Seattle, bought a ton of records, got everything from pop to punk to hip hop to jazz. And so we have a lot of records to show you today. My wife Elise went up with me, so she's going to join me today. So buckle up because here we go.
Hello, Elise here. I am usually behind the scenes for the Vinyl Crush channel, but tonight I will step in front of the camera and share with you some purchases that I made as well as what Mark made in Seattle.
Yeah, this is our first time on video together.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fun. I'm excited about this. We did do a Seattle record store crawl with Mazzy and Kimbo up north a couple weeks ago. Spent a whole day shopping and spent a whole wallet full of money shopping and had a great time.
Yeah.
And so we are going to show you a cross-section of some of the records we bought because we can't show you everything.
Yeah.
It would take way too long.
So why don't you go first?
Okay.
And we'll show you some vinyl that we got.
So one of the first records I found when I was there was this Another Side of Bob Dylan. This is his fourth studio album. And this is the last one he did solo where he didn't have electric. This was his last true folk album. And then he went electric and
pissed off all those folk artists, or
yeah,
folk-loving people.
And this had It Ain't Me, Babe, and All I Really Want to Do. Oh, great song.
Great song.
I love that song.
Yeah.
And when they were recording this, in the recording session, they actually recorded a version of Mr. Tambourine Man and also Mama, You've Been on My Mind.
Oh, yeah.
Both which were rejected for this album.
They didn't make the cut.
They didn't make the cut. And then they re-recorded them for the next. And so this came out in 1964. And did I already say it's a first pressing in mono? And you can see it's the 2i Columbia labels with Unbreakable, and there's also a promo sticker on there. And I got this for about half the value of the record, and considering it has a promo sticker on it, I was surprised it got by anybody there.
I love when that happens.
Yeah. So it sounds beautiful. I really love this album. I had a reissue of it that I didn't really care for, and this sounds so much better. So it was a great find.
Yeah, great find. Good addition to our collection, too. So starting off, I purchased Broadcast. Trish Keenan and James Cargill are the core duo for Broadcast. This album is called Tender Buttons. Came out in 2005. And this album you can listen to from start to finish. It's a beautiful album. It's kind of dream pop. A little bit of electronic.
Kind of indie.
Yeah, indie pop. It's a good description.
And as a core duo, I think you were telling me that they didn't just do all the music, they kind of produced this as well.
Right.
Yeah,
kind of impressive. Check out the back, too. I'm a sucker for pink. It's a good color.
You know, and I wasn't really familiar with this band until you turned me on to them about 5 years ago. And they're very, very good. They're kind of minimalist.
Yeah.
And they have their own sound. It's really quite beautiful.
They do. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah.
So voila.
So if you have seen the video that Mazzy took of us up in Seattle, then at the very beginning when we're in the first record store, we walk by the punk section and he says, we should get the Buzzcocks. And so ironically, both he and I bought the Buzzcocks. And I think we both bought the same album, actually.
You did.
So this is their third album that came out in 1979. It's called A Different Kind of Tension. This is a first U.S. pressing. They're a London-based punk band. And on the IRS labels, I love these labels. And so it was really, I'm sort of deepening my punk collection right now. And so there's a couple of bands we have pretty deep.
Yeah.
Like Birthday Party and Cramps.
I love Birthday Party.
But finding a first pressing of the Buzzcocks was really nice.
Yeah, this album is really fun to listen to. It's good, like around the house, like gets you kind of dancey.
Yeah, it's kind of almost a dance
fun.
beat. It's really fun. Yeah.
So, number one record, Big Star. Big Star is a power pop rock band out of Tennessee. I love how they call this album, their first album, number one record.
Yeah, Big Star, number one record. What a great...
Right, they were bound for stardom. So, REM and Kiss, they say they have great influence from Big Star, which that's kind of cool. They're all three really different bands, and I think this album in particular is kind of like flies under the radar for influential albums, but this is a heavy hitter, and I think a really good staple in any record collection.
Yeah, and didn't somebody do a cover of a song off of this album for that 70s show intro?
Hanging out
down the street. Yeah.
That's a classic one.
Yeah.
The lead singer, Alex Chilton, I discovered him outside of Big Star, and I didn't make the connection right away with just him going by his name. But he did a collaboration album with Alan Vega, who Mark knows. I'm a huge Alan Vega fan.
He's of Suicide fame, the band Suicide.
When he was a part of Suicide, it was more like noisy, kind of scary punk rock, very experimental, very noisy. Anyway, Alex Chilton of Big Star did that collaboration with Alan Vega. And just to give you a face to the name Alan Vega, just in case you don't know, and I just want you to see how cool he looks, check out Alan Vega. I totally want to steal that look with that tiger on his shirt. So this album, Saturn Strip, is kind of 80s influence and really fun. Yeah,
Rick Ocasek from the Cars produced this album.
Yeah.
So it almost has a little of that Cars influence, although it's a much more raw album than what the Cars did. Yeah, it's really good.
So, I have a feeling Alan Vega might come up in future videos that we do.
Yeah.
But anyway, Big Star is what I bought in Seattle. Alex Chilton, great album.
Speaking of Alex Chilton, that's so funny you should mention him.
Tell
because
us
more. he produced the first
nice.
Cramps album.
Awesome.
And so we're big fans of the Cramps. We have a number of their albums, first or original pressings.
They're so good.
Great rockabilly, garage punk. This is their first album. It came out 1980, I think. It's called Songs the Lord Taught Us. Great name.
Yeah.
And this is a original pressing, U.S. pressing on IRS labels. It's a great album.
Do you know what IRS
stands
for?
It's International Record Syndicate.
Okay, it's not the government coming after us?
No.
Okay. Okay, so my purchases were all over the board. I found some Neko Case, and I love Neko Case. This particular album is Neko Case and her boyfriend's Furnace Room Lullabies, and this is kind of Neko's earlier kind of flavor. She was very alt country during this time. This particular album came out in 2000, and it's really beautiful. I would say, dare I say this, Neko Case is right up there with country legends, Dolly Parton, Emmylou Harris. She could stand with those fine ladies. This is a gatefold, so if you want to nerd out with me. Neko Case was also part of the band New Pornographers, which, what a catchy name, right? Memorable name. But yeah, I love her stuff.
And didn't you get a second album by her?
I did.
Let's look at that one too, because that's such a great album. This is one of my favorite Neko Case albums.
The Fox Confessor Brings the Flood. This album came out later in 2006, and this is solo Neko Case. She gets a little bit more folky in this album, but she stays with a little bit of alt country still, and she even gets kind of gospel, which is interesting. There's a song, John's Got That Number, or something like that. Really fun album, and another one of those that you can just put on, and every song is really great.
Yeah, this is, I was not as familiar with Neko Case until you turned me on to her as well. And I really like this album. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, it's
so
delightful.
fun to share music with you and connect over music.
Yeah, really
awesome.
is.
And now we have two new Neko Cases in our collection.
So I'm going to head over to Europe and do some krautrock.
All right.
Kraftwerk.
Oh, yeah.
This came out in 1974. It's called Radio-Activity, and it's kind of a play on words. There's a hyphen between radio and activity. And so you have the concept of radioactivity, like nuclear radioactivity, and then you have the concept of activity on the radio.
Yeah.
Radio-activity.
How clever.
So this is an original pressing on U.S. pressing on red Capitol labels from 1974, and they took that wordplay a step further. There's a song on here called "Radio Stars," and it's not about radio stars like rock stars. It's actually about pulsars and quasars. So they really play with words a lot on here, and it's kind of fun. But it's great. It's krautrock. It's kind of minimalist, experimental, electronic. It's a lot of fun, though. Beautiful album, and really happy to have an original pressing of this. Sounds really good.
Nice. Yeah, Kraftwerk is fun. I like their music a lot. Okay, so sticking with powerful female vocalists, back in 1995, this little gem came out, Jagged Little Pill, Alanis Morissette. This album sold 33 million copies, which that should not be surprising. This album was so hot for its time, and I definitely had it on CD. I listened to the heck out of that CD, and I absolutely knew every word to every song.
You still do.
And maybe I still do. But Jagged Little Pill is such a rad album. Alanis Morissette is the female representation of post-grunge era, and just a truly amazing vocalist.
She's a goddess.
She is a goddess.
Goddess of grunge.
She even played God in the movie Dogma.
That's right.
How fitting, right? So Jagged Little Pill is such a cool album. So happy to add this to the record collection.
Thank you.
Yeah. What do you got next?
Next, I'm going to go with jazz.
Okay.
Okay. I picked up a copy of Jimmy Raney Visits Paris. This came out in 1958. I have been looking for an original or first pressing of any of Jimmy Raney's solo albums. Not solo, but where he was the headliner.
Yeah.
And I can't find them anywhere.
Dang.
So this is a reissue, but it's on beautiful red vinyl. So that makes up for it. It's just Jimmy Raney is a jazz guitar player, was around in the 50s. If you aren't familiar with him, he played with Red Norvo. He also played with Stan Getz, and that's where I discovered him. I'm going to just show you a record that I have. This is 1963 Stan Getz with Jimmy Raney. You can see on the cover there. This is the first pressing on Prestige. And so this is my introduction to Jimmy Raney. Great jazz guitar player, and Jimmy Raney Visits Paris is a really delightful album. I'm really happy to have it. Still going to look for it in original pressing.
Yeah, jazz is one of those genres that I have never really went deep with, And Mark has gotten me into more jazz and exposed me to so many different types of jazz. It's pretty cool. So,
yeah,
nice addition, babe. The next album, I, for some reason, want people to guess what it is. So I'm going to say the title of the album. Everybody else is doing it, so why aren't we?
What band is that?
What band is that? So it's the Cranberries. This album came out in 1993, and apparently it came out on cassette a year earlier, but it was a limited release, not in the US. That'd be cool to have one of those cassettes, right?
That would be.
But this is a 25-year anniversary edition, and Mark helped me understand the way they remastered this. They did it at half speed, so apparently that improves the quality of what we hear on the record. So that was kind of a cool find, cool purchase. The lead singer of this band has such a unique voice, and this album has the hit Linger on it, which is such a beautiful song.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime I think of the Cranberries, I always have to think of the movie Clueless, where the one classmate was like, "Teacher, can I go to the nurse? I lost my Cranberry CD."
Oh God, that's right. What a great cultural
pop culture reference.
Yeah, that's great.
But this is a gatefold. Let's see what the metal looks like here. Look how cool these guys look too. On the cover, very 90s. Anyway, Cranberries.
Great album.
I agree.
Great addition.
Yeah. What do you got next?
So next I have an original pressing of Pink Floyd's "Obscured by Clouds." This came out in 1972. This followed the album Metal,
Okay.
which was one of my favorite Pink Floyd albums. After Syd Barrett left, I didn't really care for. I mean, they were okay. They weren't my favorite records, the records that came after that, until Metal. The band was working on Dark Side of the Moon when they were invited to do a soundtrack for a movie. So they took a break from Dark Side of the Moon, went to France where they were filming the movie, or they filmed the movie, I think it's called La Vallée or something. It's in French, so I can't speak French. But anyway, so they did this soundtrack for that movie, and then after they recorded it, they had a falling out with the studio. And so instead of releasing it as a soundtrack, they released it as their own album, Obscured by Clouds. This is an original pressing on what's this called? Harvest. Harvest. I love these labels too. Pink Floyd, 1972, Obscured by Clouds.
Great.
Yeah,
Fine.
it's actually, and it sounds really good.
Nice. So I obviously love female vocalists, and I love the 90s. The next one, though, is a little different. I tapped into my hip-hop bone. So OutKast, Aquemini, 1998, still in the 90s. This album was so good. I listened to it a ton when it first came out, and it's fun to have it on vinyl. This is actually on 3 records.
Yeah.
It's a lot of music on here. But this was kind of the album that put Atlanta, Georgia on the map for hip-hop. Before that, the South didn't really have any good representation of hip-hop. And Big Boy and Andre 3000, they're such incredible musicians. They're smart lyrics. They have techno influence, psychedelic. There's some jazz influence.
Yeah.
There's even some like rock influence. They're so rad, and their fashion is so edgy. I love to see anytime they are in the public eye. They're really cool.
You know, my daughter was born in 95, so around this time I wasn't listening to a lot of music, so I kind of missed this. So when you turned me on to this, it was like, you're right, it has so many different musical styles coming into it, and it's very creative, and it's a lot of fun. As far as hip-hop goes, this is a great album.
Yeah, if somebody out there hasn't really gotten into hip-hop yet, this might be a good place to start.
Yeah.
You know, these guys are really cool. And apparently they're coming out with some more music.
Is that right?
I think so.
Oh, wow.
We gotta look into that.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So I'm going to dive into some prog.
All right. Let's do it.
Prog rock. This is Three of a Perfect Pair by King Crimson. This is their 10th album that came out in 1984. And Three of a Perfect Pair. What a great name for a record. So what that means is essentially, I discovered, is that the perfect pair is the masculine and feminine. And that's shown here by the phallic and the bowl, the receptive. And the three of a perfect pair is the masculine perspective, the feminine perspective, and the objective view, the objective truth.
Okay.
And then for to represent that, they on the back side show the red line, which represents the objective truth. So that's sort of what Three of a Perfect Pair is referring to.
Nice.
And they took that a step further too. When they recorded this album, they called the side A the right side and side B the left side.
That's funny.
Yeah, and the right side is pretty much traditional kind of songwriting, and the left side is more experimental, free-form, improvisational.
That's cool.
Real kind of prog. So the album, each side of the album has a whole different feel to it.
Wow, that's very specific.
Yeah. Great album. This is first pressing. Warner Brothers, and beautiful album.
Yeah, King Crimson is a really fascinating artist. They have a lot of music too.
They do. I mean, they've in a lot of different iterations of the band. Yeah, I think this was the last album that this iteration did, and they evolved again into a different kind of band.
I believe it. So, speaking of kings, I found this EP by King Krule. And I've been listening to this album since 2011 when it came out. And Archie Marshall was only 17 years old when he put this King Krule album out. I guess that's what he goes by in his musical world, King Krule. And this is such chill music. This EP is so good. I love every single song on this EP. And King Krule has all these different influences. He uses a lot of beats and really cool samples. He even has a little bit of jazz influence.
Yeah.
Which you might appreciate. If you look up a picture of King Krule, you might second guess that it was him. He has such a sexy, deep voice, and then you see his picture and it might not match up as you expect it to. At least that's what happened to me. But he is still sexy, still great. And this particular EP is 45 RPM, so his deep, low voice will sound really, really deep and really low if you try to listen to it on 33.
As we tried once, right?
Yeah, whoops. But I was really stoked to find this EP, and I'm so happy that we got this. I love this. So from King Crimson to King Krule.
Yeah, that's another person. You saw him live, right?
Yeah.
And we were going to go see him live, and then COVID hit, and we didn't get
pandemic.
to go. But we have several of his albums, and it's really interesting music.
I agree. Love it.
So I'm going to go all the way back to 1968. This is an impulse buy. This is Mad River. I wasn't really familiar with them. I saw this album, did a little research on my phone, and decided to buy it. It wasn't too expensive, so I took a little bit of a risk. Mad River is a band that originated in Ohio.
Yay, Ohio!
Where she's from. And just like Elise, they moved west. They decided they lived in Ohio near the Mad River, and that's where the name of the band came from. They moved out to California and became kind of a seminal psych rock band in San Francisco. And
Mazzy might like that, San Francisco connection.
And Kimbo might like it because it has a psych rock connection.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of a guitar blues heavy psych band. They had in their original music, they had a lot of influence of blues and bluegrass and ragtime, but it's really kind of blues psych. And this is a first pressing from 1968 on Capitol black with rainbow rim labels, and it's in really good shape. I was really happy to find this for a very reasonable price.
Yeah, I had never heard this before, and I really enjoyed it when you put it on.
This is the first of two albums that they produced before they fell apart, and I never heard the second album. We'll have to look for it and see if we can find it, but it's quite good.
Good find.
It was, we found a lot of good stuff up in Seattle. We had a really good time.
We did. Shopping
up there and hanging out with Mazzy and Kimbo. We'll have to do it again.
Oh, I'd love to do it again.
Yeah. The so if you haven't seen the video from the shopping trip itself, I'll put a link below. If you have any questions or comments, please put them down below. We'd love to hear from you. I think we're planning already on doing another video together soon, so
Stay
we'll get that out
tuned.
soon. And so thanks for hanging out.